5:14 a.m. local time, North Atlantic. The flight deck glows under red lights. Steam slides low across the non-skid as an aircraft elevator settles and locks. An FA-18 sits silent in its chains, wings folded tight. The sea is calm, and a steady 18-knot wind moves over the bow. Inside the Combat Information Center, there are no windows, only screens and sound. A sonar technician leans closer to his headset. Then, buried inside the wash of ocean noise, he catches it. A faint metallic pulse. Not marine life. Not anything from the strike group. Something else. Con, sonar. Possible transient bearing 090. Very faint. No one shows a reaction. The officer of the deck does not even turn. He gives a single nod. Mark and monitor. The carrier, a Nimitz-class aircraft carrier of the United States Navy, stays on course at 19 knots. No change in speed, no rudder correction. 11 seconds later, a second acoustic event reaches the array. Different bearing, different rhythm. Sonar runs both signatures through narrowband analysis. Blade count begins. 7 blades, slow rotation, minimal cavitation, nuclear propulsion profile. The supervisor lets out a measured breath. Con, sonar, confirm second contact, bearing 065, classification possible submarine, range indeterminate. Across the formation, an escorting Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer lowers its A/S QR-19 towed array deeper into the water. The cable slips silently from the stern, falling below the thermal layer where shifts in temperature bend and distort sound. Down there, the ocean becomes clearer. The first contact changes depth. The second increases shaft rotation just slightly. The data sharpens. Acoustic comparison flashes green, likely Akula-class Russian submarine. Sonar probable contact, Sierra 1. Akula-class. Bearing steady, no active ping. There is no announcement over the 1MC, no alarm. Yet the entire posture changes. Condition 3, key stations manned. On the flight deck, nothing appears different. Yellow shirts keep guiding a tow tractor. A maintenance crew checks a nose gear strut. Above deck, the routine continues. Below deck, every system is listening. 5:18. Helicopter control clears 2 MH-60R Seahawks to begin spin-up aft of the island. Rotor blades start turning. No rushing, no dramatic movement, just procedure. Inside CIC, another acoustic spike appears. Con, sonar. New transient bearing 088. Possible second submarine altering speed. Now the screen begins to show a pattern. 2 submarines separated by roughly 12 degrees of bearing spread, both beneath the thermal layer, both closing slowly. The carrier does not maneuver, it simply absorbs the moment. The destroyer's electronic warfare suite begins passive logging. No emissions from the subsurface contacts, no active sonar. They are staying quiet, which means they intend to be heard only when they choose. 5:22. Estimated range solution puts both contacts inside 30 nautical miles. That is not random traffic. That is deliberate proximity. On the bridge, the captain stands with his hands behind his back, voice calm and level. Maintain course. Increase passive collection. Launch air asset. No raised voice, no hesitation. Beneath the strike group, propellers turn with a constant rhythm. Thousands of tons of steel keep moving forward without deviation. The submarines continue their approach. One contact shifts 5 degrees starboard. The geometry tightens. The ambiguity shrinks. They are positioning. Con, sonar, contact Sierra 1, increasing shaft turns, now approximating 18 knots. Submarines do not move quickly near a carrier strike group without purpose. The destroyer widens its screening arc, opening more space between hulls. The cruiser edges subtly to port. The formation adjusts in degrees, not miles. From above, nothing seems to change. From below, everything is changing. 5:26. The first MH-60R lifts from the deck. Wheels clear. It banks east, nose lowered, slipping toward the horizon. Inside CIC, no one speaks for 4 full seconds. Then, con, sonar, both contacts now inside estimated 22 nautical miles. A threshold has been crossed, not political, not territorial, tactical. The Russian submarines are now within simulated engagement range of a U.S. aircraft carrier. No launch, no doors open, but below the thermal layer, steel is moving closer to steel, and the ocean suddenly feels much smaller. 5:28 local time. The first MH-60R Seahawk levels off at 300 feet above the Atlantic, nose pointed toward the eastern bearing. 30 seconds later, the second aircraft lifts as well, holding staggered separation. Rotors beat steadily in the dark air, controlled and precise. Below them, the United States Navy carrier strike group continues at 19 knots. Inside CIC, the acoustic picture becomes more defined. Con, sonar, contact Sierra 1, now 20 knots, bearing 085. Sierra 2 steady at 15 knots. These are no longer vague traces drifting through background noise. They are maneuvering. The destroyer's towed array runs deep, below the thermal layer, where sound can bend, fade, and hide. The data stream stabilizes. Blade rate confirms the earlier assessment. A cooler class profile still matches. But the second hull suggests something else. Yasen class, larger acoustic mass, more power in the shaft turns. Con, sonar, Sierra 2, showing broadband signature, consistent with pump jet propulsion. Possible Yasen. That changes the equation. A Yasen carries far more than undersea weapons. It also brings long-range strike capability that reaches well beyond the horizon. But right now, this is not about range on paper. It is about distance in real water. 5:32. The lead Seahawk slows into a hover. The crew chief leans out and gives the signal. The dipping sonar cable drops into the sea, cutting through the surface chop. Active ping. The ocean answers with a hollow metallic return. Then another. Inside CIC, the waveform spikes. Connecticut Air Asset confirms solid return. Sierra 1 depth estimated 580 feet, closing geometry. The submarine reacts immediately. Speed rises, then falls. A depth correction follows. It knows the helicopter is there. It is probing the edges. On the carrier's bridge, the captain studies the digital overlay. 2 red vectors continue inching closer, threading between destroyer screens. Maintain formation integrity. No course change. That decision is deliberate. A course change would signal discomfort. Holding steady signals confidence. 5:35. The second Seahawk begins dropping sonobuoys in a widening pattern. Yellow canisters strike the Atlantic one by one, building an invisible acoustic net. Each buoy starts feeding data back to the strike group in real time. The submarines are now inside 18 nautical miles. That is no coincidence. Con, sonar. Sierra 1 bearing shifting port 5 degrees. Sierra 2 matching. The 2 contacts are adjusting their relative angles against the carrier's projected track. They are shaping a firing solution. No one says the word out loud. They do not have to. Every sailor in CIC understands the geometry. If a heavyweight undersea weapon were launched from 15 nautical miles, reaction time would shrink fast. Seconds would start to matter. 5:37. The Yasen contact accelerates to 22 knots. That is not escape speed. That is positioning speed. Cavitation rises. Acoustic clarity improves. Con, sonar, Sierra 2. Cavitation increasing. Stronger return. The destroyer edges outward, widening the defensive arc. The cruiser adjusts by half a knot to preserve screen spacing. Every movement is measured in degrees and tenths. The carrier remains steady. Flight deck operations continue without interruption. An FA-18 is set at catapult 2, engines idling. The deck crew moves with practiced precision, focused on routine signals and timing, unaware of the calculations unfolding far below the surface. 5:39. The lead Seahawk shifts from hover into a slow orbit. The dipping sonar comes up. The pilot banks wide, setting up for another drop. Con, Air Asset reports Sierra 1 altering depth, now 650 feet. They are going deeper, trying to distort sonar geometry. But deeper water brings more pressure noise, and with it, stronger detectable signatures. The strike group's acoustic picture grows more certain. 2 Russian submarines, inside 16 nautical miles, still closing. The officer of the deck remains calm. Air, continue active pattern. Surface units maintain passive. No escalation. No one says that last word loudly. Even so, it settles over the room. 5:41. Con, sonar, Sierra 1 now inside 14 nautical miles. That is simulated firing range. Below the thermal layer, steel hulls move through black water in near silence. Above them, helicopters circle. Sonobuoys pulse. Destroyers adjust angles. No missiles. No warnings. Just disciplined counter-shadowing. The Russian submarines wanted proximity. Now they have it. The carrier strike group answers not with noise or panic, but with tracking, geometry, and steady forward motion. The ocean has become a grid. Every blade turn is recorded. Every degree is measured. The gap between hunter and target keeps narrowing. 5:42 local time. Inside Combat Information Center, the room is quiet enough to hear keyboards. Acoustic feeds scroll steadily across the displays. Then it happens. A sharp metallic pulse. Short, high frequency, distinct. The sonar technician freezes, replays it once, then again. His voice stays level. Con, sonar, possible outer door transient, bearing 082 Sierra 1. No one asks what it means. Everyone already knows. Outer door transient. Torpedo tube cycling. Not a launch, but preparation. On the bridge, the captain does not turn. Confirm. Replaying now, Captain. The waveform spikes again. Beneath the ocean wash is a faint hydraulic whine. Then the destroyer's sonar supervisor cuts in over the secure net. Strike group, this is Escort 1. We have matching transient on Sierra 1. Classification likely tube door movement. The geometry on the tactical display tightens. Sierra 1, 13 nautical miles. Sierra 2, 15 nautical miles, both below 700 feet, both inside the simulated firing envelope. No alarm sound, but posture changes instantly. Set condition 1, underwater defense. No shouting, no theatrics, just execution. 5:44. The MH-60R Seahawk breaks from passive orbit and moves into aggressive positioning. The pilot lowers the nose and accelerates. The crew chief prepares another sonar drop. Active ping. This time, the ocean answers louder. The submarine reacts. Speed falls from 20 knots to 12. Depth shifts upward by 40 feet. That is defensive movement. The second submarine increases shaft turns slightly. That is counter-positioning. Inside CIC, the tactical action officer watches both vectors tighten. Con, Sierra 1 has angle on bow. Sierra 2 adjusting to starboard quarter, crossfire geometry. If this were combat, this would be the moment. 5:46. A second transient reaches the array, fainter and shorter. Con, sonar, possible second tube cycle. Sierra 2. 2 submarines, 2 torpedo rooms. No launches, but doors moving. The destroyer's AN/S QS-53 hull sonar goes active for 3 controlled pulses. Deliberate, unmistakable. The message is clear. We hear you. The acoustic picture sharpens all at once. The first submarine banks 10 degrees to port. Speed rises briefly, then falls again. The second contact slips deeper, below 800 feet. That depth makes guidance more difficult, but it also increases the chance of detection. The carrier holds steady. 19 knots. No deviation. On the flight deck, Catapult 2 fires. An FA-18 launches clean into the gray morning sky. To anyone watching from outside, it looks like ordinary flight operations. Below, a line is being held. 5:48. Con, sonar. Sierra 1 now inside 11 nautical miles. That is well within a heavyweight torpedo envelope. If a wake-homing weapon were already in the water, countermeasure sequences would be seconds from activation. Nixie decoys stand by. Hard turns are already planned. Electronic countermeasure packages are armed. The captain's voice remains steady. Air! Tighten pattern. Surface units maintain acoustic pressure. The Seahawk drops a tight sonobuoy cluster directly ahead of Sierra 1's projected path. Active ping. The submarine answers without meaning to. Its hull reverberates through the water. The return sharpens into a clear shape. Aquila class confirmed. The second contact, with its larger acoustic mass, matches Yasin class signature. Con, sonar. Both contacts now actively maneuvering. No launch detected. Every eye in CIC stays fixed on the center display. Seconds begin to stretch. 5:50. Another metallic pulse, but different this time. Longer. Then, con. Transient ceased. No follow-on screw acceleration. The tube cycling has stopped. The submarines are holding. The destroyer's hull sonar sends one final active ping. Long, low, unmistakable. Then silence. No launch plume, no sudden high-speed screw burst, no rising broadband signature of an incoming weapon. Only water, heavy and still. The submarines remain inside 10 nautical miles, but their shaft turns begin to ease off. Speed bleeds away, the geometry loosens. Inside the strike group, posture does not relax, it stabilizes. The message has been exchanged. The Russians showed they could get close. The US Navy showed it could detect, track, and counter them even inside firing range. 5:53. Con, sonar. Sierra 1 speed now 8 knots. Sierra 2, 10 knots. Both altering course east. That is withdrawal, not retreat, disengagement. The carrier never altered course, never increased speed, never broadcast a threat. It absorbed pressure, then applied its own. The tube doors closed, the ocean quieted, and for now, no one fired. 5:54 local time. The acoustic picture begins to stretch outward. Con, sonar, Sierra 1 bearing drifting 090, speed 8 knots, Sierra 2 matching, both contacts easing east. Not a sprint, a controlled withdrawal. Inside Combat Information Center, no one relaxes, no one leans back, every console remains lit, every headset stays pressed tight. Because submarines do not simply vanish, they reposition. The carrier strike group of the United States Navy continues at 19 knots, course steady, wake clean and white against the gray Atlantic. The destroyer widens its screening arc by another degree, preserving defensive geometry without signaling pursuit. 5:56. The lead MH-60R Seahawk sends one final active pulse across Sierra 1's projected path. The return comes back instantly. Clear hull outline. Depth now 720 feet. Angle turning away from the carrier's bow. Con, air asset confirms Sierra 1 steady eastbound. No aggressive acceleration. The second submarine lingers longer. Its acoustic mass holds at 12 nautical miles, drifting slightly toward the carrier's starboard quarter before correcting its course. Then something new appears. Con, sonar, additional contact, bearing 058, very low amplitude. The sonar supervisor pauses, runs a quick cross-check against the library, then gives a small nod. Friendly. The word is not spoken loudly. It doesn't need to be. Somewhere beneath the thermal layer, invisible to most of the strike group, an American fast attack submarine is already in position. A hunter designed to track other hunters. Likely a Los Angeles-class or Virginia-class platform operating independently but tied into the strike group's defensive network. It has been there the entire time, silent and patient. 5:58. A low-frequency active ping moves through the water from the friendly submarine. Not loud, not prolonged, but unmistakable. A counter-shadow. The response is immediate. Con, sonar, Sierra 2 depth change. Rapid descent, 50 feet. Speed fluctuating. That is not confidence. That is caution. The Russian submarine has realized it is no longer observing freely. It is now being observed in return. The geometry shifts again. Sierra 1 briefly rises to 14 knots, then drops to 9. Sierra 2 angles farther east. Both contacts begin opening distance beyond 15 nautical miles. On the bridge, the captain studies the display, voice steady. Maintain posture. No pursuit beyond screen boundary. That is doctrine. Control prevents escalation. 6:02. The Seahawk climbs to 500 feet and banks wide, maintaining sensor coverage but no longer lowering its sonar directly overhead. The destroyer returns to passive listening. Active sonar fades. The ocean quiets. Inside CIC, the tactical action officer watches the gap expand. Con, Sierra 1 now 18 nautical miles, Sierra 220 and increasing. The tight geometry that once surrounded the carrier dissolves. Now the vectors angle away from the strike group's path. The carrier never changed course, never accelerated, never signaled alarm. It absorbed the approach, detected the movement, and responded without firing. 6:05. The friendly attack submarine shifts its bearing slightly, moving parallel to the withdrawing contacts at a safe distance. Not chasing, not provoking, just reminding. Every submarine commander understands that message. You approached a carrier strike group. You were detected, you were identified, and you were countered. Above the surface, the rhythm returns. Another FA-18 launches cleanly. The catapult resets. Yellow shirts signal across the deck. Nothing in the sky suggests that two nuclear-powered submarines had just moved inside simulated engagement range. But below the surface, the equation has changed. 6:08. Con, sonar, Sierra contacts beyond 25 nautical miles. Bearing steady east, withdrawal confirmed. The American attack submarine holds parallel for a few more minutes, then reduces speed. No pursuit beyond the line. The strike group tightens its formation slightly, returning to standard cruising geometry. Electronic logs are saved, acoustic signatures archived, blade counts, shaft speeds, transient events, because next time, recognition will be faster. 6:12. Inside CIC, posture shifts from Condition 1 underwater defense to heightened monitoring. Not routine, but stable. No weapons were deployed, no missiles, no public statement will follow, but beneath the Atlantic, a line was drawn and held. The Russian submarines came close enough to send a message. The United States Navy responded quietly, precisely, and without hesitation. The ocean settles back into its steady rhythm. Still, everyone in CIC understands how narrow the margin was and how quickly it could narrow again. 6:18 local time. From above, the North Atlantic looks unchanged. Gray water, low clouds, wind steady over the bow. The carrier strike group moves exactly as it did an hour earlier. Deliberate, measured, unhurried. Below the surface, the geometry has fully opened. Con, sonar, Sierra 1 now 32 nautical miles east, Sierra 235, both steady. No sprint, no sudden dive, just distance increasing. Inside CIC, the display shifts from tight red arcs to wider spacing. Acoustic logs scroll, time-stamped and stored. Every transient, every blade count, every depth change is recorded. The tube door events from 542 and 546 are flagged. Because memory matters. 6:22. The MH-60R Seahawks return to the deck. Wheels touch down, rotors slow. No dramatic debrief on deck, no visible tension. Inside secure systems, the data is already compiling. Acoustic signatures of two Russian submarines, likely Akula-class and Yasin-class, refined and cross-referenced. Their approach was not accidental. Two nuclear-powered submarines closing inside simulated engagement range of a U.S. carrier is not drift. It is signaling, and signaling always works both ways. 6:25. Flight operations return to full tempo. An E-2D Hawkeye lifts into the overcast. FA-18S cycle through launches. The choreography never paused. That was the point. The carrier did not turn away. It did not accelerate. It did not react outwardly. It held its position. Inside CIC, Condition 1 drops back to Condition 3. Key stations remain manned. Monitoring stays elevated because submarines do not disappear. They reposition. 6:28. The friendly fast attack submarine slows and slips back into its protective shadow beneath the strike group. No pursuit, no need. The message has already been delivered. In modern naval doctrine, control is not about who acts first. It is about who controls the geometry. Between 5:14 and 6:12, that geometry tightened to within 10 nautical miles. Tube doors moved. Helicopters deployed sonar. Hull-mounted systems went active. An American submarine revealed just enough presence. No weapon entered the water, but everyone understood. 6:31. Con, sonar! All Sierra contacts beyond 40 nautical miles, bearing steady east. That is disengagement. Not defeat, not victory, just distance. The carrier continues at 19 knots, cutting forward through the Atlantic. On deck, sailors move through maintenance checks. A crew swaps a hydraulic line. A pilot heads toward the ready room. Routine returns quickly at sea, but beneath that routine, awareness remains. The next time those same acoustic signatures appear, 7-blade count, pump jet resonance, response will be faster. Familiarity reduces uncertainty, and uncertainty is what creates risk. 6:35. On the bridge, the captain reviews the final summary. 2 submarines approached inside simulated engagement range. Both detected, both countered, both withdrew. He nods once. Log complete. Maintain course. No speech, no announcement. The Atlantic does not measure who came closest, only who remained steady. 6:40. The strike group widens spacing slightly, returning to standard transit formation. Electronic warfare teams finalize reports. Acoustic specialists annotate waveform details. Far to the east, 2 Russian submarines continue their patrol. They proved they could approach. The United States Navy proved it could detect, track, and respond without firing. That balance is fragile, measured in miles, measured in seconds, measured in restraint. The ocean is quiet again. But every sonar operator in that darkened room knows how quickly quiet can turn into contact. Today, the line held. No smoke, no debris, just steel beneath the surface, calculating distance. And next time, the margin may be thinner.